Alright, so let's get into some Q&A. Hello, Frater Xavier. I have been following your channel for a few days and have began my path in magic, and I want to ask you to suggest several books to start my journey. Expect the Liam Thomas Christopher and Chick Cicero. Alright, this is the number one question I get asked is reading material. Books. The reason I recommend Liam Thomas Christopher's Kabbalah, Magick, and the Great Work of Self-Transformation is because, number one, it is a complete course on initiation from Neophyte to Portal Grade and will walk you through all the steps to becoming a magician. And two, it includes all the required reading material that you will need to read in each grade. So let me ask you a question. If you're not getting what you need from the required reading in the dozen or so books in the complete course on how to become a ceremonial magician, what makes you think that you're going to get it from some other book? I want you to seriously think about that for a moment. There's a reason that I don't recommend other books. That one book, if followed and practiced, will keep you busy for years. I don't want to encourage armchair occultism. That is to say, the acquiring of knowledge without acting upon that knowledge, without doing anything. Because those who do nothing with the knowledge don't deserve the knowledge. And I know this because I used to be an armchair occultist. It's a whole other thing entirely when you act upon that which you've learned. Now, I'm not scolding and picking on this individual specifically. This is a question that I'm asked constantly. If the procedure is followed in the book that I do recommend, you will become a ceremonial magician. If you read it and don't do anything with it, you won't. It's that simple. Too much air will put the candle flame out. That is to say, too much mental activity will keep you from acting. All air wants is more air. So you do not want to get caught up in an information addiction. You need the right amount of air so that the candle flame will burn. By following the exercises and daily practices that I have given, as well as the book recommendation that I've given, Kabbalah, Magick, and the Great Work of Self-Transformation, the knowledge will come as you're ready for it, because there are certain grades you have to go through. When you get to the elemental grade of air, which is Theoricus, you will realize that too much air will put the candle flame out. It won't just be me telling you that, you will realize it. So the reason I haven't given any other book recommendations is because I want you to act upon that which you have been given. That said, okay, anything by Jason Miller is good. I found his Advanced Planetary Magic book to be useful, although it's not anything I didn't know already when it comes to the specific operations for certain planetary days and hours. The only drawback I find with it is that he only lists one example for each planetary day and hour, when, as you know, there are many correspondences that can be used and many different types of operations that can be used for specific planetary days and hours. But it's a good read, as are his other works. But again, it's not going to do you much good if you don't act upon them. And even if you do, it's not going to be realized to its fullest potential if you do not acquire the basic skills required as in the one book recommendation I have given, the initiation course. Anyways, let's move on, because I've spent almost 5 minutes ranting on the first question. But sometimes a rant is good. I do it because I care. You have no idea how many times I've been ranted at by my higher self and the spirits that I work with. You learn from it. Hey, just curious, does being polarized make you sound like you're on Valium? You never sound energetic. No. You have it backwards. Depolarization can make you pretty chill, but I tend to save most of my fire for temple, doing the real work. One of the first things you're going to learn, and need to, as a magician, is how to relax at any given time. Without relaxation, you won't be able to achieve the mental states necessary to do magic proficiently. I don't even really understand what this channel is about, but I like to fall asleep to your videos. And you're not alone. I've been told that actually quite a few times. In fact, even my girlfriend often falls asleep while I'm talking to her, which on one hand can be quite frustrating, but on the other hand, it means that I have a powerfully hypnotic voice, which is fine, because that means we're just going to have all kinds of fun when we get to the hypnosis stuff. I like the sound of your voice, and I feel like somehow there's a way that I can be happier, and maybe people will stop picking on me so much. Alright, so people pick on other people primarily to get a reaction from those other people. So if they're picking on you all the time, that means you're allowing them to. Ideally, you should not be reactive to that. One of the reasons I promote RSD Tyler's channel is not because he's a pickup guy, it's that you just can't learn these things anywhere else. You need to learn frame control, how to deal with amogging, which is alpha male other guy, how to not be so reactive and qualify yourself to other people. So on YouTube, look up RSD Tyler Foundations Super Conference, and you'll come across the video. It's like 8 hours long. Near the end of hour 2, I believe, he'll go into ways to deal with congruence tests, with the way you should handle yourself when people give you shit. Again, he's coming from a frame of pickup, but at the same time, these methods work regardless of whether or not you're doing that. They work in all areas of life. I just have a question for Frater Xavier or anyone who has the answer. When doing the lesser banishing ritual, we touch our right shoulder and say Ba Gavura, but doesn't the Sephirots Gavura correspond to the left side of your body? So shouldn't we be touching the left shoulder and not the right? Or is that just the way the prayer goes? Now, I answered this one already, but I'm going to answer it for all of you as well. And that answer is no. The sphere of Mars, the Sephirot of Gavura, corresponds with the right side of the body, because the tree of life diagram is drawn so that you would have your back to it. So looking at the tree of life diagram as if you are looking at another person facing you. Do you have an opinion on freezer spells? Are they considered baneful? What if it's more for self-defense? And well, that's just it. If you're trying to free someone out for being a nuisance all the time, and you're doing it from a position of defense, then no, it's not baneful. A freezer spell really isn't going to do much except for freeze them out of your life. I have a few things in my freezer right now. As far as I know, no harm's come to them. They're not around anymore. But that's not to say that whatever life lesson they were meant to teach you won't come back in some other form. So keep that in mind. Can you make a video on proper meditation form? And then he goes on to talk about what he's been doing. And then I started reading the book you advised by Liam Thomas Christopher, and he talks about the Neophyte Meditation, focus on a point. But I'm very confused about this. Does that just mean I am supposed to stare at a point in my wall and just stare at it? Also wondering if I should perform both types once I get an insight of how to perform this Neophyte meditation. Yes, you stare at a point on the wall. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Meditation is the act of clearing your mind of all thoughts, all conscious thoughts. By doing this, you allow the subconscious mind to communicate with your conscious mind. Now you can listen to what your subconscious can tell you once you're in that meditative state. And by focusing on a point, you will start to learn things about that point. You wouldn't think it, but I guarantee you there's a wealth of information in that point. So much so that almost every magical operation I do involves the information gained from the meditation of staring at a point. It also helps you to develop concentration and focus. Unwavering concentration and focus. Very important. Does age matter in magic? What if you finished the curriculum at a young age, like mid-20s? Is there a difference if you've become an adept at 25 or 35? I would think it's better to become adept after your Saturn passes through your chart at 29 years, but I honestly don't feel ready to do all this at my age. Well, then don't. Not everyone's cut out for it. If you don't feel like you're ready, then that means you're not ready. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's far better for you not to even begin than to start and then quit halfway through or something. And there has to be discipline and conviction in order to do that, in order to see it through. That said, I wish I had the discipline and conviction at an earlier age. It's of my personal opinion that it would be better to do this at an earlier age because it will affect the rest of your life. However, most people do not have that level of discipline and conviction at that young of an age. And that's as simple as I can put it. Especially in today's environment where the attention span is so low. The few who can would really set themselves up for a life of great things. Magic and the occult aside, your 20s is when you need to start hustling to make something of yourself anyway. So that by midlife you have laid the foundation and done the groundwork necessary to have the life that you want. Again, R.S.D. Tyler talks about this in great detail as well. If you just slack off and party and basically just waste your time throughout your 20s, you're going to have a much, much more difficult time down the line. I have a question about releasing emotional blockages. I know I have a huge one. Whoa. How exactly do I do it? Do I just keep repeating to myself, I forgive, or it's not your fault? Pretty much, yeah. It's like affirmations. You say it enough times, enough repetition, eventually it's going to get through. Now, someone else had asked if they could do a sigil to release an emotional block, and you could, but remember, sigils have a way of manifesting when you least expect them to, and releasing an emotional block is somewhat of a private thing. If you really want to supercharge the release process, make a list of everyone that has ever done you any wrong, as far back as you can remember. And one by one, as you go down the list, think of exactly what it is that they've done to you. And by each one's name, write, I forgive you. And this could be very difficult for a lot of people, because it will bring up a lot of those old feelings. A lot of them from childhood, okay? But as it's written, so it is done. Write by each one's name, I forgive you, until you do forgive them. Because if you do that enough times, you will. And that emotional block will be released. You have no reason to hold on to it anyway, because it's not your garbage to carry around. You know what I mean? So do that if you're having problems with it. It will really, really help you to get to where you need to be. It may take some time to do that, but it's worth it. I am in need of a mentor. Maybe that's the wrong word, don't know, but the idea is that I need someone who can do the reality check thing with me. That's pretty much what I'm doing here on YouTube to reach a larger number of people. As of this time, I'm not doing one-on-ones. But that may change down the line. At some point, I may want to take a select number of people under my wing. Of course, to do that in person, they would have to be in my area. But there's also, I guess, the Skype option as well. But as of right now, I'm not doing any one-on-one consultation, mentoring, anything like that. But that may change down the line. Now, if you're putting what I'm teaching on this channel into action, into practice, especially the grounding exercises, then reality checks won't be much of an issue for you after a while. You won't need them. They will help ground you. With everything I've learned over the years, I still have an addiction problem to very powerful prescription opiates and would like your opinion on how to rid myself of this problem for good. And he goes on to describe his struggle with this issue. This is one of those circumstances where creating a sigil and charging it may be the best way to go. Now, I'm putting my own course on sigil magic out early next year. Don't quote me on that. I don't want to make any promises that, at this point, but that's the plan. But you probably don't want to wait that long. There are many resources on YouTube on how to create and charge sigils. It should not be that difficult for you to find. And this is how I beat my caffeine addiction, was doing sigil magic. I'd done it a couple months prior. That is, created and charged my sigilized intent. And then when I least expected it, I just woke up one day and quit caffeine. I just didn't feel like having it anymore. Realize that your addiction, your habit, is a subconscious programming that you have established by repetitive use. Enough repetition will always get through to the subconscious and either become an instruction or a habit. As I said before, you do affirmations enough time, it's eventually going to get through as either an instruction or you're going to develop a habit of doing the thing that you've been doing over and over and over again. And that becomes your subconscious programming. And so a sigil is an instruction that you put into your subconscious consciously. And then it will execute the program. So when I woke up, I didn't even want caffeine anymore. And it was just out of the blue. I didn't prep. I didn't plan. I wasn't saying next week I'm going to quit caffeine. None of that. Now, I still had the withdrawals. I still had a week-long headache, and it was a mother because my physical body had gotten into a vibratory state that I was no longer fueling. But the sigil pretty much took care of that as well, in the fact that the programming to get off of the caffeine was stronger than the desire to rid myself of the headache. And I didn't treat it as a big deal going through it. I only mentioned it before because it had been a while. But while I was going through it, I didn't go, oh, 3 days I'm off caffeine. 4 days I'm off caffeine. I didn't keep count. I didn't express it to other people as a source of getting validation. You know, if you treat it as a big deal, it's going to be that much harder to quit because your subconscious will think this is a big deal. So when you do this, I would advise to be low key. But yes, a sigil is a good way to go about getting rid of that. Also in Modern Magic by the late Donald Craig, there's a technique in there for confronting your demons, basically. And that is to make a visual representation of the thing that you want to get rid of and then banish it. Regardless of which method you use, the principle is essentially the same. You want to either make a symbolic representation of what you want to get rid of and banish it, or make a symbolic representation of your instruction to the subconscious to get rid of it. Both are very effective, but I think that the sigil magic is the simpler of the two. Good luck, and I wish you the best. Hey man, you were talking about emotional blockage, but what about sexual tension blockage? I don't want to masturbate every time I have tension, which is like 1,000,000 times a day. How do you clear that tension without sex or masturbation? Napoleon Hill talks about the sex transmutation, but creating something like art or music still doesn't get that tension out of your body, and you become angry, too much Mars energy built up. Shit pisses me off. Can't get sex out of my mind. And we know that all things begin in the mind. Same answer I gave the last guy. If you're serious, create a symbolic representation and banish it, or create a sigilized symbolic instruction and put that in your subconscious to diminish that. Most people cannot transmutate sexual energy until after age 40. So if you're younger, you're going to have a more difficult time with that. So if you're serious about, diminishing that so as to not be so distractive so you can get things done, because thinking about sex all the time can be quite crippling. You just get nothing done. Then that's the way I would go about it. My issue with your magic launch is that I have to pay. Can I have it free because I'm awesome? No. You have to pay because I'm awesome. Greetings from Greece. Thank you for your videos. They help me understand and see many things I didn't before. I'm very drawn to magic, fascinated actually. I really want to understand what it is we are experiencing, but one thing is stopping me from practicing. If we are placed in a system where we are inflicted with certain situations, should we be trying to alter the conditions or even avoid those situations? Is it our place to do so? And if we decide to make changes or ask for changes, how are we paying for that? For example, if I ask for love, how do I know if the one for me is ready to meet me? Doesn't the universe know the right time for everything? And shouldn't I be waiting for that? And if the right one does come along, and it was the right time, do I pay somehow for getting my way faster or getting it in the first place? Okay. So it's a question of whether or not magic is morally ethical, or if it's going against the universe. But magic has to follow universal principles, or it won't work. And if it somehow violated the universe, in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't exist. In my experience, the universe wants us to employ its principles, to do magic. It's the ones who aren't doing magic that have all the problems, that are stuck repeating the same lessons over and over and over again, because the universe is trying to teach them those principles. It's a great question, though. It is. It really is, and I appreciate you asking it. Whoa, has anyone ever told you you sound like Seth Rogan? No. But I'm sure that will be a thing now. While I was watching your video, The Key to Happiness, you said something pertaining to astral projection that blew my mind, so I had to write you. When you described the difference between running around outside the body and true astral projection, I was shocked. I had no idea. I have never heard or read about this before, and of course these are things that I keep to myself. So after listening to what you have said, I am wondering what I missed out on. I really wish I would have taken advantage of that opportunity. Would you be willing to do a video on this, or tell me where you went? Sure, why not? The first astral projection that I had did not go so well. I had been trying for a long time, and nothing was working. So I ended up doing a sigil, which happens to manifest when you least expect it. And the night that I wasn't trying was the night that I went full-blown astral projection, which scared the hell out of me. The portal opened up and I was like, no, I'm not ready yet. No, no, don't take me. But it became obvious that it was going to no matter what. And so I said, screw it, and dove right in and went through the wormhole. If you've seen Contact with Jodie Foster in it, or the Stargate series where they go through the wormhole to get to the other worlds, that's pretty much what it's like. When this happened, I was in a normal dream, a regular dream, playing cards, and then that's when I awoke and saw the spinning portal above my head. So anyway, I go through the wormhole, I shoot out the other side, and I splash down in water into just off the coast, which was surprising. I wasn't expecting to come landing in a pool of water, but there was a pier there. I remember there was a pier, and I remember the first thing I had to do was to check my hands. That's just something you do in dream training, is check your hands to keep the state of consciousness going, to ask you to look at your hands. Am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? My hands looked transparent. I could see the bones inside, which was kind of freaky and strange, but whatever. I just dealt with it. And then there was a loud roar, and farther out into the ocean, the sea, there was a large sea monster, like a kraken, like a big, giant squid. And that really freaked me out. So I tried to get to shore as quickly as I can. And it was about at this point that I started losing control due to all the excitement and, the weirdness of it all. I remember that the sky was different. The sky was almost a purplish color, and there was different planets in the different moons that were, nearby. It definitely wasn't your typical Earth setting. But there was a house on the shore, and I needed to get to that house. And I burst into this house, and I had one need, and that was to get to a mirror. For some reason, I had to get to a mirror and see my entire body. There was someone living in the house. I couldn't make out the details of what they looked like. To me, they kind of looked like shadow people. There was a larger one somewhat protecting a younger one. I just kind of blew past them, like out of my way, and I saw a wardrobe, and I wanted to get to that wardrobe to look at myself in the mirror. And as soon as I got to it and opened it up, that's when I got pulled back into my body and I woke up. The longer it went on and the more control I lost, the more it became more like a normal dream. But the beginning of it and going through the wormhole and everything, that was absolutely, completely more real than this reality almost. It's hard to describe just how real and tangible that was. Many of the rules that apply to lucid dreaming apply to astral projection as well, such as don't get overly excited, because that's the quickest way to lose control. And once you lose control, you lose the consciousness element to it, and it goes back to being a regular dream. In my case, it was like I had been warped just instantly all the way back. Like I was physically pulled from that space back into my body. And that would be like the key difference from my having lost control. So yeah, that was basically my first full-blown astral projection. It was not my first out-of-body experience. And in my first out-of-body experience, I was very, very calm, and subsequently so. And it's for this reason that I prefer to stick closer to home. I mean, the astral projection is pretty cool and all. It's like a roller coaster. You're scared to go on it the first time, but afterwards you're like, yeah, that was fun, let's do it again. But I find that going to those places is always tends to be really weird and bizarre, and it overexcites me, and then I lose control of it. And more importantly than that, things just don't get done. When I go to the astral these days, I like to do magic. I like to work. I like to create things in the astral that will manifest down into my life. And an astral projection into other worlds, other realms, there's not as much opportunity for me to do that. It's quite the experience, but at the end of the day or night, you don't really have much to show for it, as opposed to, say, an out-of-body experience or a lucid dream where I can really take the reins and do some ritual magic and create what I want on the astral plane that will filter down to manifest into my life. Ain't no magic like astral magic. And I think that's about all we have time for. I didn't get to every question, but this video has gone on a lot longer than I originally anticipated. I do appreciate all the comments, all the support, all the questions, and I wish everyone a safe and happy holiday. Laws of Magic update will be on Wednesday. Check your inboxes for that. And stay tuned for a special announcement. And I will see you then. Take care.